Nice to hear from you. Great to hear from you and your band again after a while. And you've got, I think it's the 14th studio album coming up
Yes.
soon.
Yes.
So that's quite an achievement. So congratulations for
Well, thank you.
that. So what are your feelings about the new album? Are you satisfied with it?
Well, yeah, very. I mean, I think it's one of our best albums we've done. I mean, best collection of songs that we've put together here. I mean, we really worked very hard. I mean, it's not that we've never worked hard before, of course, but for some reason it just seemed like we worked a little extra hard. I know I did. I really wanted to take it to kind of another level if I could. I don't know, just feeling, it just had really a sense of wanting to just do the best I can ever do, I guess. And I worked really hard, harder than I ever have, like I was just saying. So I'm really, really pleased with the album. I mean, I think the songs turned out great. I think they're brutal, they're catchy. We got a great guitar sound on the record, and I'm really happy, actually. I haven't been. I mean, we're always happy for a release. We always try our hardest. It's never been a thing of going through the motions with us. Of course, we wouldn't be here 30 years on our 14th CD. But like I said, just for some reason or another, this one just in particular for me, I worked so hard and extra hard, and we worked hard together as a band to really craft these songs. And I think just for being around as long as we have, and we're just constantly trying to get better and becoming better songwriters and musicians and all that kind of thing. And I think it just happens with age. It should, in a sense, and you work hard and all that too, of course, everything. And that's what's kind of happening with us. I like to think that this album is a culmination of, from the very beginning of Cannibal to, say, our 13th album, and then here you go, you got the best of all that, and here's Red Before Black. Our best effort to date, I believe.
Okay. So for next year, I think it's going to be 30 years since you started out, so it's quite a long time. So you still, and I sense from you there is still a lot of power and still a lot of motivation to continue, and you still have a lot more to say. Even after 30 years, you are still motivated to bring the death metal message to the fans.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. That's why, we're still going. I mean, we do it for ourselves. I mean, when you start playing in a band, and when we, especially death metal, I think, when we started way back, why are you starting? You want to just create, music yourself that you love and that you're listening to. And, you want to be a part of this, whatever scene. And just, that's why you become a musician, I think. And that's why I did, and then you're doing it for yourself, So right, if you can constantly make yourself happy with what you're doing, then why wouldn't it just keep continuing, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's it. The inspiration comes from hearing what these guys come up with, like, wow, that riff, all this, wow, awesome, let's go, let's do this. That's kind of right. If we're getting that, well, then I'm gonna feel inspired and want to push forward and all that, But luckily we have that within the band. 3 really great songwriters, and then throw me into the mix and all that kind of stuff, and we we come up with some fun stuff, some good stuff that get you excited as a musician, as a fan of the music, and makes you want to go out and accomplish and play to the people, make songs, and do what we've been doing, I guess, for 30 years. So
yeah. So if you compare to the band of some decades ago and the scene that it was back then, and the climate that it is now, what would you say is the main difference changed?
It doesn't seem to us that much has changed, other than the fact that you're always going to gain new fans. You're going to lose some and you're going to gain some, and we've constantly been gaining. But yeah, when we look at the way our career has gone, from the beginning, we've always just, we would put out an album, it'd do well, we'd go on tour, our shows were always, good shows, good tours, always successes, you always walked away going, man, that was a great tour, you always have 1 or 2 shows that maybe weren't up to, your stand, oh man, wish there would have been more people there, something like that, but such a rarity with us, that it's kind of like, well, in the whole, well, death metal was dead in this time and this. I mean, it's like for us, it was like, okay, if it was, it didn't seem to affect us. We just did our thing. and people were there, and we have the fan support and all that kind of stuff. So if anything, it's gotten, of course, is a little bit bigger, really, you know. I mean, sure, 10, 15 years ago even, well, it's, it's still not like it is now. 30 years in, you're right. It's crazy to think that Cannibal Corpse is almost like a household name in a sense where just because we've been around that long and we've been in other mediums that, chances are everybody's heard of the name Cannibal Corpse, whether you heard the band or you know what death metal is or even, like it. Chances are you heard of our name, so that's just crazy to me. But yeah, I think it's just in a little bit bigger scale now than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. But but it's going strong.
Yeah, and if you compare the way you worked on this new album in studios, has the technique of recording and engineering has that improved at all? Because if you compare the new album to, for example, Tomb of the Mutilated in '92, which was recorded, I think, in 2 weeks. And many people still think that is your best album and praise the sound of that album, even though you did it so fast. So, so how would you compare working in the studios and trying to get that sound picture when you actually have? I think you take more time now than 25 years ago. So how was it in studios to kind of get
right? Yeah, it's weird how things change and how like. Yeah, just because you got a week or so doesn't necessarily mean you're going to come up with a bad record. If anything, usually you don't have time to think exactly. You just got to do it and get it done. I mean, all those early albums done so quick and with so little time that you can't even think of anything. You just got to go. Got a guitar solo, kill. That's what you go. All right, go. All right, we got to move on. We got to, we don't have time here. And that's right. The Tomb and those albums written that way and recorded that way. And then, of course, with to analog, there is no digital recording at that point, or if it is, it's just not widespread use, and it's nothing. The technology isn't there yet, so you're kind of changing up in that sense. But and then it's weird. You're right. When you got more time now, it's good because you can take your time a little more. But then you got, like I said, you got more time to kind of. I don't know, to be overproduce, I guess, in a sense,
Yeah, exactly.
So that's where it gets a little tricky, But yeah, I think those first I think we've always had a pretty good sound on all our albums, and you do with what you can, like I was saying, with the time frame that you got to just make it happen. And I think that's happened, when you think of, and I'm sure there's plenty of albums, especially back in those, before us recording, where the things were done so quick, and it's like, man, it's really crazy to think how things were done, back in the early days where bands would be on the road and they'd be in the studio recording a song. I mean, that's just crazy to me, how rock and roll bands did it back in the day. But anyways, for us, I think having the technology helps these days. Recording using Pro Tools. I mean, you're just helping yourself, really. I think at this point, making it as less painful as possible in the studio for everybody. And it sounds good, but it's working on those tones, the sounds of the guitar and the sounds of those instruments, because it doesn't mean if you're going to work with Pro Tools or something that's going to have some kind of sterile kind of a sound. I mean, look what we got on Red Before Black. We really worked hard and we wanted to obtain that gritty guitar sound that we got, and that Pat was really wanting to push to get his own signature guitar sound on a CD. For once, finally he felt. And we obtained it, and that's that was key, But that's having some time then to work, because that might not happen, like you said, if you only got maybe a week or two, to do that. But so it's got its pros and cons, right?
Yeah. So speaking of the music, when Cannibal Corpse releases a new album, you always know kind of what is to expect. But does the new album, in your opinion, continue anything that's a bit different to the past? For example, you put out a video for Code of the Slashers, which I think was very, very traditional Cannibal Corpse, and spoke to the fans, and people have given a lot of positive reviews of that particular song. And you put out a second tune, I think, just a couple of days ago. So do you think the new album, Red Before Black, is does it just continue from the previous one, or what in your opinion is maybe a bit different compared to the previous works?
Yeah, I mean, I think, in the last 3 or 4 records, we started kind of like at least having a few songs that more had an old school vibe, a little thrashy maybe, and then, for some reason or another, when we just started writing these songs, it just, had more of an old school kind of thrashy vibe, I mean, and we had, like I said, it was kind of dispersed throughout the last few albums a little bit here, but for some reason this one, it's definitely a lot, overall a lot different than our last one, I would say. Still Cannibal Corpse, but just, the people are, describing it as like a Skeletal Domain was a lot more of a darker album. And then this one's just more of just a ballsy in your face thrasher, kind of like, and I don't know, that's just what we were feeling, I guess, this time. We just always write obviously from within, and you're always given a time frame to write. That's how we've worked, of course, our whole career. It's every a couple of years you're creating music. Well, and this was our time to create for this album during the beginning of the year or what have you. And this is what we were feeling. This is what these guys were feeling. And I almost look at it as back, kind of like we're coming full circle in a sense. Possibly, right? When you listen to, listen to Eating Back to Life, especially. Eating Back to Life is a very thrashy album. We're products of thrash, obviously. We're all of them grew up in the 80s, and that's what the music was. That's what got us into it. And then we're morphing into a death metal band. We're not, when we're formed, death metal is just in the pinnacle, just in the beginning, I mean, so it's not like we're changing as a band. We're still trying to find our identity, I mean, 6 months before Eating Back to Life was put out, remember the demo tape, I mean, we were sounding pretty, Barnes sounded more like creator vocals and all that, because that's what we were doing, that's what we're into, and then you're morphing with it. So our first album has, of course, a lot of more of a thrashy feel to it, and then we were starting to, of course, change it up a little bit, adding the blast beat, we're getting a little more darker in a sense, and all that. So, but I kind of, like I said, look at it as almost, we kind of almost came full circle, because this definitely has that thrashier kind of a vibe, and I'd say there's nothing wrong with that.
So you feel there's a connection from the first album to this one, so you feel...
Possibly, it's almost kind of like we get the best of everything here, like I said, a culmination. We take the first album, take the beginning of the band, the whole career, what we've gone through, and then, here's what we got Red Before Black, because it's got, it's still got touches of modern Cannibal in the sense where, okay, a song like Hideous Ichor, or, whatever, Head Shoveled Off maybe, or something, might not be, wouldn't have been on our first or couple records perhaps or something. So I think it's just, like I said, it's a good overall mix basically, but the overall vibe is definitely more of a thrashy kind of a feel, which, very aggressive to me and very, very brutal sounding. So nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, so like you said, the band is mostly known from the brutal music and the themes and the artwork obviously attracts a lot of attention. But behind all of this, there's a lot of talent in your playing and the musicianship. So do you ever feel like you haven't got the credit for that playing and the songwriting, or do you feel that the attention has been too much driven on the image and the themes of the band?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say, I guess. I mean, I don't mind people. I mean, I don't know. We just do our thing as long as we're happy, I guess. But yeah, a lot of it's, they think of just the imagery and, the titles and all this. But, but we always wanted that to be secondary too. I mean, I think that's why we've released albums with covers that might not be really much of a cover. I mean, really look at the Bleeding. We released the Bleeding, our 4th album, after having 3 brutal covers, and that cover is really not. It's not brutal, really. It's just a little different and strange. And what is it? And okay, there's blood, but it's really not. It's not even close to being, what the other 3 were. And it was one. And there you go. It was one of our biggest sellers. It's our biggest seller because of the songs, because of the music, right? So yeah, we always, if we're getting overlooked because of the music, because of the imagery, well, usually it's people that, I guess, as well, that just they're not into it, because if you're into the music, you're not going to care. But if you're not really just into the music, then it just doesn't matter, I guess, So I think most of the people that are shunning it or whatever, or just taking it for that value of the imagery and all that, are not really into the band then, I guess. So
Yeah.
you know, so we, you know, I mean, hey, if that's the only reason they're into it, well, that's cool, I guess. But to me, yeah, it's like the people that just want to censor things that they just don't understand and don't like, you know, instead of just going, you know, just ignore it then, you know, because it's not for you. So
yeah, and it's easy kind of saying, you know, I don't like this music, so it's easy to say, you know, they can't even play, you know. So
right, exactly. Listen to that. I hate this. And what is that? Oh, it's noise. Well, that's right. Well, then you don't. Guess what? Then I guess you don't like the music. You don't understand, and it's not for you. That's what music is. Luckily, there's, you know, something for everybody in the world, you know, and a lot of different styles of music. And I guess, yeah, you know, that's just right.
Yeah. So if you go back to the early 90s and the first albums like Eden Back to Life, a lot of people didn't know anything about the band, and you know, the covers and the lyrics of the songs, the images of what they created, and the rumors made you almost like serial killers in the eyes of people or the minds of the people,
right.
and full nutcases or something like that. So how do you feel looking back to the early 90s of how do you feel about it now? How you were treated back then, and how did it feel like? Obviously you enjoyed it full on, but
of course. I mean, you know, yeah, right. I mean, it was part of the kind of the image that, yeah, exactly. No one knew bands with no internet back then, and you didn't know much. So right. Everybody thought we were, we must be just demented lunatics. I mean, look what we're putting out there, right? You know, so it was kind of, you know, we took it tongue in cheek. We knew that's the way it was going to be. I mean, yes, understandably so. Until people meet us and know who we are, then that you're going to read the book, you know, by its cover, you know, unfortunately, right? You know, and it is funny because I remember so many times in the early days, exactly, when no one knew really much about us and knew us at all, and you know, they get to meet us on tour, and right, you're doing interviews more more in person at shows or whatever, and every interview we would do, it would be like at the end, the person would be like, wow, I didn't know what to expect, you know, and you're a really nice guy and all this kind of stuff, because they had no clue, right? I'm going to be interviewing somebody in Cannibal Corpse. Oh my God, what, you know, you're having that preconceived notion of something's going to be messed up or something's not right, you know, and they walk away always saying, you know, wow, you know, you guys are all nice guys, and you know, wasn't sure what to expect. It's like, you know, so that was kind of funny, but I look back and that's the way that we kind of knew it, and we were asking for it. We knew we were going to get, you know, we weren't going to be accepted by everybody, and we knew there was going to be some sort of a kind of a, you know, a weird aura around the band, because nobody knows who we are. So yeah, that's the way it went, and it was you know, I think that's there was nothing wrong with that. It was kind of the way it should be, you know, actually, you know, because there's not like you can't have that anymore, you know, with with the internet and bands starting out. You're never going to have that with a band coming out where there's that mystery. You know, it's always cool to have that mystery, and that's why I think our hero bands, the bands of, you know, back in the day, well, you know, you hear the stories, and all we got are got books, and you got word of mouth, and people and it just seems like such a crazy, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, now with the internet and everything, it's like, you know, there's no mystery behind it. So yeah, it was cool we were still a part of that era.
Yeah. And now that you are still in Florida, and obviously Florida is remembered for death metal in the early 90s, late 80s. So do you think, obviously that time cannot ever come back, you know, because that was the era, what it was. But do you think there are still new bands coming out from that era and that area that are still making rounds? Or what kind of scene is there at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, there's still a scene, of course. I mean, you got bands that are still living here, like us and Obituary and Morbid Angel and Deicide, and, you know, they'll play every now and then, you know, like I think Obituary, I think they just played, I think they're playing tonight. If not, they might be playing tonight. Okay. Yeah, they locally. You know, so it's still cool to have those, you know, but I'm not sure on any up-and-coming bands, you know, if there's anything really like up-and-coming new bands, you know, that are out there in Tampa here, or in the area, or in Florida even, per se. I mean, you know, you still got the ones, like I'm saying, that are still kicking, you know, that are still going and all that, which is good. But yeah, but for as up-and-coming bands, I really don't, I don't know, So it may have, maybe it hit a wall. I don't know, Just it produced the bands that it did, back then, and who knows, I guess. But but at least there's still a good scene down here.
Yeah, so people are still listening to metal, I hope.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shows. I mean, there's always bands coming down here. Florida gets missed a little bit, kind of like Finland, where it's out of the way. It's tough to get there. Yeah. So it's not on every tour. Finland or like Florida, same thing. It's well, you got to go down south, and it might not be cost effective, and a lot of people miss Florida. But then again, a lot of people come to Florida because I think they know it's a good market, and there is metal in Florida. So and it does well.
Yeah, and you have the 17 tons of metal, which a lot of people associate to Florida, I think.
Well, yeah, kind of, because exactly. You have to go to Florida. You're there, and then of course a lot of bands do end up playing around there. Yeah, so it's associated with that too, I guess. So
yeah.
So, but there is a Florida's metal, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you mentioned Finland, and like you said, a lot of times Finland gets overlooked. So with the last album, Skeletal Domain, I think you were here twice with that tour. So at least from this point on, we do not see any Cannibal Corpse dates here. So do you know if you are coming to Finland?
I'm sure we will, right. I know we're doing the European tour coming up here in February, and exactly, there you go. It's no Finland. I think we got one in Norway, got two in Sweden, maybe, I think. Good. You know what? When we're done here, we got to look, because I don't know offhand. So we may be playing Finland, but we are coming back to Europe in February and March. So it's a matter of, if we're not playing Finland on that tour, I would imagine exactly we'd be back at some point on another leg. And then, of course, you want to play some of the places that you didn't play on that previous leg. And, that's usually what happens. But there should be at least one show, I would think, in Helsinki. But I don't know offhand.
Yeah, and obviously there are festival seasons coming up next summer, so if you are in Europe, then that's another possibility.
Yeah, and I think that maybe our possible plan here. We're not sure. We're still looking into the, but we're going to be doing festival season either this summer or next summer. So there's a good chance we'd be doing. It was fun. We did the Tuska that one year, and that was our only festival playing in Finland. That was fun. It was a cool festival. I would hope we get to do something like that again.
Yeah, that would be great. So, are there any Finnish bands you are a fan of? Are there any Finnish bands playing in the Corpse tour bus?
Not that I can think of, actually. I mean, these days, everybody. It's funny these days. It's not like it was back in the early days when that's all you had, for entertainment on the tour bus. Everybody had to sit around in the room and listen to the tape deck, and you had to watch VHS movies, whatever they had, right? Now it's like, well, everybody's got their own iPod and their headphones, and you can go in your bunk, and it's like a little mini hotel in there, so you can just live in there and do your own thing. So it is funny how things have changed over the longest time, and unfortunately, it wouldn't be me playing any Finnish bands, because man, I'm playing a lot. My musical tastes are so different these days, and just so much in the rock and roll way. I'm listening to a lot of Allman Brothers and a lot of Traffic. I just love the late 60s, early 70s. That's my era of music these days, man. That's my passion.
And this is actually interesting because, again, a lot of people's perception is that these extreme metal bands, they just go into tour bus and put on the black metal Corpse plate and listen to dark music, but actually the influences are very diverse, and they come from many different genres.
Right. And we still listen to some of the heavy stuff, of course, still put stuff. But I mean, a lot of people we've got different tastes, and we're older, so we got a lot of, you always seem to revert back to the stuff you grew up listening to and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah. So speaking of touring, obviously you have 14 albums to pick the songs from. So any thoughts yet on the set list, on what songs from the new album, for example, are they all suitable for the live stage, or will you pick just some of the highlights?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we obviously want to support. We're probably our plan is to at least try to play 6 songs, which is half the record.
That's a lot.
I mean, and I think in the past we got up to 5 on one album. I think we play, or maybe 5 songs. Last album, I think we only got 3 in there. So this time we were looking at all these songs going, yeah, I'd say 11 of them. We knew Hideous Ichor, the last song on the album, that would be a hard live song. That'd be a tough one to pull. So I don't know if we'd even attempt that. But almost everything else we feel that can be done. But there's the few that you feel you have to play. I mean, of course, you release a song like Code of the Slashers because you want it to be, so that's, of course, is going to be in the live set. Same thing with Red Before Black. We feel that's, you put that song out there and people hear it now, and, that's one we're really feeling, and that which should go over good live. The opener, we always want to try to play the beginning, the first song on the record, because you're putting it first and for a reason. And so The Only One Will Die, will definitely be in the set. And then we're still kind of deciding on the other, what else we'll get in there. But yeah, if we can pull off 6 songs, that would be that's going to be our goal, and then fill in the rest with the other albums. But yeah, it gets a little tougher in that sense when you got so many albums and songs to choose from, and then unfortunately there's going to be maybe a couple that just don't get in the set, that people want to hear. But hey, we got so many now that it's unfortunately that's just the way it goes, So it's kind of at least we look at that as not a bad thing though. Hey, we know we got more songs that we could probably change the whole set, every other tour and play songs, and it would be okay. We probably would never go that drastic, but at least goes to show you that you got more than just 5 or 6 or 7 songs. We got a good catalog that people want to hear every tour. Oh, you're not playing that. Oh, it's like, man, sorry. If we played all the ones that everyone would hear, we'd be up there for 6 hours, I guess.
Yeah. So from your standpoint, if you could pick one song that you feel like you just have to play live from the new album, what would it be?
That's tough because I like them all. I mean, I really like it. Red Before Black. I'm having a lot of fun playing that. The Only One Will Die might be the one though. I mean, when we first were learning that and playing it and getting it together, it was like, man, this one's just this is a bruiser, and a song that Alex wrote, and I was just like, man, I'm feeling just just fun, real fun song to play. When we're at practice, it's like one of those that you're just going, man, that was just fun. So that's probably the one I'm looking forward to.
Okay, we are about done. So any last greetings for the readers of Metalliluola from you? Well, just thank you.
Thank you for the support, and appreciate the interview, and thanks for the, keep supporting Cannibal Corpse and death metal in Finland, and we will be there soon to kick some ass. So.